Good afternoon from Tokyo. It is Wednesday afternoon. I am currently 3 days out from my second Masters Olympia. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about peak week. Now, peak week is often misconstrued a little bit, I feel. I feel like a lot of people are looking for some magic to happen in peak week. And although you do definitely reach a peak at this point, if you are not lean enough, if you are not in shape, no amount of water manipulation, drugs, or anything else you can think of, tan, everyone always says, well, you look better when you've got a tan on, or shaving, or anything else is gonna work for you. So the key leading into peak week is to be as lean as possible. Now, I've had calipers done, I've had DEXA scans done. Obviously, we monitor progress weekly. In fact, we're monitoring it daily at the moment with my coach, Martin Winston. Yes, I do have a coach. I'm sure if he was to ever compete again, he would have a coach. Most people have got one. I have done a fair amount of my own preps. In fact, I've probably done 90% of my own preps. Although I've always had someone on side to at least give a second opinion. I've always found it a little bit difficult putting trust in someone. One of the main reasons for that is, you've got your own ideas, having, competed now for 19 years, prepped hundreds of people myself, and being type 1 diabetic. So that's me, Dexcom scan there. It's hard for people to understand, especially the diabetic side of it. So really what I do with Martin and anyone I've worked with in the past, even in the short term, Neil Hill being one of them, John Hodgson, Dave Palumbo, is really they've given me some sort of guidelines and protocols, and I've tried to manipulate mints and around that. But there has been times where sugars have dropped, things have happened, and I've had to make alterations and made adaptations because I've just physically needed to for health reasons. Anyway, that's going a little bit off subject. If you're watching this, there's a good chance that you're about to compete pretty soon. I've left a message for the Shea Best Classics, who are doing a show a week after the Olympia, so this will be released before that. So hopefully any of you guys doing that show, good luck to you all. We'll be able to watch this and maybe pick something up in the last week. Other than that, you could be watching this in 5 years' time and having a show. The rules or the principles of peak week or even prep are not really changing too much. It is a case of doing the right basics, as it is in the off season or at any other point. You can't reinvent the wheel. There's no real special tricks. There's just fine tuning and manipulation to get the best out of it, which if you have got a coach, they need to be on top of daily. You can't necessarily design a peak week from the start, although I do like to give an outline of what's going to happen throughout that week. It is a guideline and things are constantly up for adaptation. So if someone wakes up one day and after 1 day of carbs they're suddenly 3 kilos up and they're looking full already, we might have to back off the carbs immediately. If after 1 day of carb up nothing's moving, sometimes they drop weight, then we might have to put them up immediately. I personally prefer to carb up a little bit slower. That can be complicated by travel, especially when you're traveling abroad. So I don't like to eat carbs on a plane. So that's the first thing I'm going to talk about, is when I would carb up. Okay, so if I was competing in the UK, having got myself as lean and shredded as possible, I would probably look at starting to manipulate things around about a week out, where I'd be raising natural diuretics like vitamin C. I'm using Expel and Peak, what's it called? Peak Max as my natural diuretics. There will be probably be a diazide, or it'll be a mod diuretic combination of diazide and another one that I'll use, which I find very good. Also, it does affect my insulin sensitivity being dehydrated, so I've got to be careful how long I use them for and how strong they are, because it does alter my insulin sensitivity. And if you are dehydrated, you can't carb up. So the first thing to do is to have the natural diuretics in, get your body releasing water, making sure you're drinking plenty of water. I mean, I would be drinking 6 litres of water quite comfortably all the way through the prep, possibly more. And then I would probably just put it up a little bit. I have seen coaches with female competitors that are 60 kilos on 10 litres of water, and that's absolutely ridiculous. You're going to fucking drown yourself. So for me, it would probably be, you know, a litre for every 10 kilos, something along those lines. So that would put me at about 10 litres. I don't personally think I need that much. I'd probably be around about 8, but certainly if you said like 0.8 of a litre for every 10 kilos of body weight, so then that would put a 60 kilo girl at around about 5 litres, and it would put me at around about 8 litres. You know, a super heavyweight, 120 kilo, they'd be having possibly 10 litres, which is probably where that comes from, because it is an old school bodybuilding thing, and obviously when it was just bodybuilding, then that's where that sort of 10 litres would come from, and everyone's kind of followed that. But that's crazy to think. You certainly wouldn't be taking the same amount of anabolics as a 120 kilo open bodybuilder. So why would you be drinking the same amount of water? It just doesn't make any sense. So with water being high, I personally do believe that you're already carb depleted on a prep. So I don't necessarily feel the need to deplete any further. That might depend on the individual and how many carbs they're having. But if you're on 100, 150 grams of carbs, and you're, you know, a 90 kilo guy, 80 kilo guy, you're pretty very much depleted. So I don't really feel like there's any need to empty the tank any further. You just sort of emptying the bathtub further to fill it back up again. So it doesn't really make any sense to me. There will be people saying you super compensate, but with that you could spill over. So I don't feel like there's a need to do that. So what I would do personally is, say if I wasn't having the complex of traveling and then not wanting to eat carbs on a plane, I would probably start carbing up around about 5 days from the show on a moderate amount. Again, if you've not had carbohydrates for, well, you've had some carbohydrates, but you've not had many for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, then all of a sudden you try and put in 1,000 grams of carbs 2 days out from the show and wonder why your stomach can't handle it. It's pretty obvious, really. So for me, I would take that 2,000 carbs that you're potentially going to have over 2 days, assuming obviously you're going to be burning more calories over 5 days. You might bump that up to 3,000 and split that 3,000 over those 5 days. So it should be about 600 grams of carbs. And then if you were 3 days in and you're feeling like, wow, I'm full already, then you back off your training, back off the carbs, sit and relax, let the body recover, and then just dry out. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want to do. You need to fill up, then dry out. If you're trying to dry out as you fill up, again, you're trying to give the body mixed signals. You're trying to increase glycogen storage, fluid retention within the muscle, but also flush it out. Very difficult to do that at the same time. So get full, get dry. So that's what I would do. I would start filling up nice and gradually. You're not going to start losing another 5 pounds of body fat. And if you need to lose 5 pounds of body fat at 6, 7 days out, then you're way behind. So you don't need to worry about this peak week because you're not in a position to worry about it. So once you're shredded, and that hopefully will be 10 days out, if it's the final, you might have been shredded already for 2 or 3 weeks. At this point, if you've already done a show, you'll probably find you're not as depleted as you were for that first show. So you may not need as many carbs because you're not as depleted. So it can vary where you're up to. But I would just start carbing up a little bit earlier. You're already lean, you can't get fat. Once you start to see yourself getting that bit fuller, you then back off, and then you'll do some form of water manipulation. Now, some people flatten out real fast. So I have guys who drink 8 litres the day before the show and still 2 to 3 litres of water on the day of the show, especially if they're on later on. Otherwise, they'll just go flat. They may have half of a pharmaceutical diuretic just to bring the edge off, but if they don't drink any water, they completely flatten out. And if they have too much diuretics, they completely flatten out. But if they have not much water, a little bit of water, but no diuretics, they still don't seem quite dry enough. So it is a balancing effect. I've got other people, and I'd be more along this line where I would probably start to half my water. So I would probably be on 8 litres on Wednesday, maybe go down to 5 on Thursday, 3 on Friday, and then probably drinking just half a litre on the Saturday, depending on what time I'd be on stage. Do not go on stage completely dehydrated. I remember actually the last Masters Olympia, I was almost struggling to pose on the balcony because I dried out. I was so dry, my mouth was dry. So I just put a half litre of water in throughout the next sort of couple of hours before I got on stage, and that just enabled me to flush a few more carbs that I was eating around and not be completely dehydrated. Because once you're dry, 1/2 of a litre of water is not all of a sudden just going to spill you over from nowhere. It's just impossible. There's too much of you for 1/2 a litre of water to have that effect. But you need to make sure you wake up dry, because you don't want to be chasing your tail. You don't want to wake up holding water and then taking something to try and pull it off too quick. You need to be doing it in a gradual point, and that's how it works better for me. Gradually carbing up and gradually drying out throughout the week. Now, if you are traveling, whether it be if you're in America and you're just traveling the States, it's a short flight, whether you're in Europe, or for me, just traveling across the world to Tokyo, I had a couple of high carb days. When was it? Saturday and Sunday, and then Monday I flew. So Monday I had a couple of carbs in the morning when I trained, and then I cut my carbs all the way from about 3 hours before flying until I landed in Tokyo. So it was about 22 hours roughly. Obviously I was still eating some food. I was eating protein and fats, and the other thing I was doing is drinking copious amounts of water on the plane. So I probably was aiming to drink about 700 ml for every hour I was on the plane, something like that. So I was constantly flushed out on the toilet. And if you've not got carbs in the system to hold the water in, it's coming in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And I think I got off the plane at about 103 kilos, which I was pretty happy with. I still had a bit of fluid retention in the ankles, but everywhere else was pretty good. And by the time that I woke up, well, it was Wednesday morning because we landed Tuesday night because of the time difference. And by the time I woke up Wednesday morning, I was 100.5. So I was exactly where I was prior to flying over. So again, I still had a little bit of tension in my ankles. I've still got a little bit now. It's Wednesday, but that will come off over the next couple of days. And now I've actually been eating more carbs. So actually, when I landed last night, I think I was 103. And when I went to bed, I was 102.2, having had 2 more carb meals. So I was expelling water. And then when I woke up, I was 100.5. Today, I weighed 101.5 after my first 2 meals. So again, 4 big carb meals, all about 90 grams of carbs. And I'm actually 2 kilos lighter than when I first landed. So that has done the trick. We just need to fill out now. The weigh-in is Friday afternoon, so a lot of these weigh-ins, especially the pro shows, tend to be in the afternoon, which is a bit annoying because obviously that's when you weigh the most. We all weigh at least in the morning. That's when we do our check-ins, that's when we get a weight done. So we do need to be aware that carbing up will take us higher. So I will go from like 100 kilos in the morning. Say I wake up at 100 kilos in the morning, after 6 meals I'll be 103, and that is the weight limit. So I will have to manage fluid on the day. Another reason for me to manipulate the fluid. So by Friday I probably will be on slightly less fluid. I'll make weight, and then I might put some water back in, flush it back out, fill back out, and then dry back out overnight. It really just depends how I'm looking and where my weight is. But when I was not ill in Amsterdam, because in Chicago, if anyone follows me, you'll know I was very, very ill. I did the weigh-in in Amsterdam, and I was about 103.3 at dinner time, and the weigh-in was about 4 o'clock. So I just didn't drink any water. I still had one more carb meal, because it's water that makes you go heavier, not a few carbs. So the carbs, if you have 100 grams of carbs, it's 100 grams. But if you have 100 grams of carbs with a litre of water, then you're going to weigh more because of the litre of water, because it's going to hold that water. So I had 100 grams of carbs, didn't have any water, and I think I weighed in at like 101.9 or something like that. So I was quite comfortably under the weight limit. And then I got ill. And then I went from 103 kilos mid-afternoon on a Friday to 94 kilos by the time Monday morning hit, and it looked like a 10-year transformation from 94 to 103, but it was a 48-hour transformation going in the wrong direction. So that was painful. Anyway, we seem to be okay now. So onwards towards the Tokyo Masters Olympia, 3 days out. So I'm about half a day in, plus 2 meals yesterday of carbs going in. It's going in nicely. I feel like I'm getting fuller and drier. I still feel a little flat, and I can definitely see a difference between my upper and lower body. So I will start to fill up through the upper body and dry out through the lower body as the carbs go in, pull the glycogen stores, pull the water into the muscle. And then, like I said, once I feel like I'm getting that fullness, it's just then a case of manipulating the water, possibly some water tablets on the Friday night before the show on Saturday, just to bring out that little bit of added detail. Now, I know some people say you don't need diuretics, and maybe some people don't, but I'm yet to see anyone that I've been truly peeled and rock hard, other than possibly some natural bodybuilders. But there's a difference there because of the anabolics that are going to be dry without using, really dry without using something, even if it's just mild. Like I say, even the guys that have to keep drinking water regularly, even up until the show, they still need a little bit to take that edge off, in my experience. Some people need more. When I was competing last time, the more shows I did, the more diuretics I needed, unfortunately. And I still seem to stay full. So with the Masters Olympia, I actually got on stage at 105 kilos, and I used more diuretics than I'd used before, because it just seems to have a different effect on me. So you've got to take every prep slightly differently, and you've got to keep an eye on how things are working throughout that week. Most of you will have a coach now, so hopefully they'll be doing that. If they're not checking in with you daily from 10 days out to 5 days out, and possibly twice, 3 times a day, leading right up into the show, then they're not going to be visual enough to see those slight changes that are going to need to take place. You might get it right, because you might have that plan and it might just work for you, but in the act of something needing to be changed, you need to be constantly viewing that. Now, if you have got a coach, do stick to what they say, and if it doesn't work, get a new coach next time. Do not take it on yourself, because otherwise you might as well just do it yourself. Now, if you're prepping yourself, that's absolutely fine. If you have got concerns, talk to your prep coach, tell them your concerns, and they'll hopefully explain why they're doing a certain thing and why you shouldn't be doing it something else. Now, there's a few other little bits that we look at. So obviously the tan. Now, I would always pay for the professional tan. We'd always have to do it when we're abroad. You don't want to lose something on a pathetic like a tan. You've trained it for years, you've dieted for months. Just pay for the tan. Pay for the best tan, get it done. Trunks, make sure you get fitted trunks. Don't buy them off the shelf. Get measured up, get them tested. If you need to sit on your hips for guys, and for women it's even more important to be fitted on your chest properly and your back properly. It makes such a difference. I actually had a pair of trunks that I just pose in the morning, and I can just see, because they sit down here, not on top of my hip, it just changes my shape completely, and it's like I just look different, and it's a pair of trunks. So why would you not take those little things that are so easy to manipulate? We spend all these years dieting and training, And there's one little thing that you can just change so easily and make a big difference. Posing. You should be posing 2-3 times a day at this point. Make sure you're getting feedback on it. Make sure you're videoing it yourself, watching it. I sometimes upload it to YouTube and watch it on the big screen, watch myself pose. Get a posing coach. I have always been labelled a good poser, but I went to see Emma Hyman this time and definitely made some improvements, felt more confident. We've also put together a nice routine. You can't be too good at posing, and especially having not competed for a couple of years. I mean, some people, if it's your first time or you've not competed before, or you've only competed once or twice, if you've not had posing lessons off a seriously good coach, I do posing coaching as well. Obviously I can't coach myself like with anything. You need to have that second opinion. You need to step back from it and see what's going on when you're doing it, and then have little things. And what she was so good at is give me little insights and go and say, right, feel this, think this, do that. And it's just like little trigger points. Like if you play a sport and you have a certain routine of a practice swing in golf, and you say you go through that routine mentally, and it's just having these little checkpoints. So, and then it becomes natural. And then once that becomes natural, you can focus on other things, smiling, looking presentable, looking confident, and all that sort of stuff, because everything just feels natural. So, you can't pose too much. You can't be too good at that for certain. Shaving, women and men, everything. Your arms, your lower back. And there's going to be people that, I haven't got much hair on there, the tan will not go on as nice. Everything needs to be waxed or shaved. I don't like waxing because I'm a hard ass. Actually, I've got really thick hair. Even when I've been before, the lady said to me, she said, it's like waxing someone's face, your hair's so thick. I guess that's years of anabolics, years of shaving. The hair's got thicker over time. But whatever you're going to do, get it done. If you're waxing and you don't do it very often, I would do it possibly 2 weeks before you compete. It won't grow back in that space of time, and it gives your body time to settle down and not cause any rashes. If you're shaving, I would do it fairly regularly, and I would do it, say, 5 to 6 days out, and then I would go over it 48 hours out. Do not go over it the night before. It can lead to a little bit of fluid retention under the skin because you are creating a bit of damage on the skin. So I'll probably shave Thursday morning, Thursday night, ready for Saturday show. Having a tiny bit of stubble isn't an issue. No one's touching you, no one's feeling you. But what you don't want to do is have that little bit of water retention. So if you're going to shave in that morning, yes, you'll feel smoother, but you could hold a little bit of water because of the damage you're doing. So I shave about 48 hours before the stage. That's my principle. I also don't use any sunbeds. You can't get brown enough on a sunbed anyway. If you're going to use nasal tans, if you're going to use sunbeds, fine, build up a base with them. But for a week, I wouldn't be touching anything, no damage to the skin, and just using the proper tans when you go to the shows. Just trying to think what else is there. You've got to make sure obviously when you're packing your stuff, make sure you've got your posing trunks, make sure you've got your routine sorted, your music sent over, you know where you're going to be, what time your registration is, all those little things that you don't think about. We've got to travel all over Japan and to get tan at one place, weigh at another place, show at another place. But it's all part of the fun of being away. So I'm not going to moan too much about being in a nice foreign country. So it ticks off the bucket list. Bringing the wife and little one here as well. So they're coming on Thursday. Well, flying Thursday, be here on Friday. Ready for the show, and then we'll have a few days in Tokyo enjoying the sights. Yeah, so prep. Do not make little mistakes in the last week. You've worked so hard to get this far. There's so many little things that you can do to finish it off. It is peak week. I don't like that word because people expect too much from it, but you can fuck it up for certain. You can't make it right if you're not in the right position, but you can damn well mess it up. if you are in a good position. So don't make that mistake. If you've got any questions, if you've got to the end of this video, Coach Kelvin on Instagram, message me, Kelvin Hind on Facebook, comment on this video, which will be uploaded to YouTube. I will tag a few people on a few various different social media groups. And if you are competing soon and you want any last minute tips, give me a shout. If you're looking for a coach because you're 6 weeks out, 12 weeks out, or 18 months out, you want to do your first show, hit me up and we'll get you ready.